Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that'll have plot synopsis and character bios for the issue we're about to look at. So, I'm very excited. The Uncanny X-Men 165 from 1982. Dave Cockrum has ended his second run on the X-Men, and we are now going to start with Paul Smith, and this is his first issue. Paul Smith will have about a year run on the title. Great cover here. He also did Marvel Fanfare number 4, which was the fourth part in when the X-Men returned to the Savage Land. The first two by Michael Golden, the third one by Dave Cockrum, and then Paul Smith wraps it up. Um, you all know how I feel about the Brood, so I won't linger. I do have a playlist. I have the X-Men all in reading order. I also have shorter playlists where I kind of group issues together. So check out the playlist section. All right, this is the classic X-Men story, that how I discovered it. This is the cover. Mike Mignola did it. I think it's so simple and so elegant and so beautiful, and golly. So I discovered this issue, like I said, through this. And so, Transfigurations, possibly the last stand of the Uncanny X-Men. If you remember our last issue, the X-Men, there's a rupture in the hull, so the X-Men are being sucked out. Cyclops yells, "Explosive decompression, we're being sucked out into space." And everybody is hanging on. Chris Claremont, Paul Smith, and Bob Wycheck is still the inker. Lynn Varley, yes, the Lynn Varley is the colorist. Tom Rozakowski returns to letter the X-Men after missing several issues. Louise Jones, who we all know now as Louise Simonson, is still the editor. So, great panel here. You can already tell a more modern feel with Paul Smith taking over from Dave Cockrum. Um, Everybody knows how I felt about Dave Cockrum's second run. I think he's a very serviceable, but his work is dated. We got Cyclops here. So we got his internal thoughts here. The internal hatches have already sealed to protect the rest of the ship. We're trapped in here. Luckily, the hangar bay is so large it'll be a while before its atmosphere fully voids. We'll have time to act. The wind is terrific, like being caught in a twister. And then out loud he says, "Colossus, shift to armor. Block the hole with your body. Don't let anyone be swept past." And so Colossus does as he's told. "I will do my best, Cyclops." And so you can see him letting go, and he armors up, and he goes, "I must gauge my move perfectly here." So, boom, he hangs on. "The slightest mistake will send me hurtling into space where even my armored form cannot long survive." And look at him. "Oof. I'm here, Tovarish, but I do not know how long I can stay." So, Nightcrawler, teleport with Lalander to the bridge. Activate the damage control systems. And so he does. And Lalander says, "This stunt felt awful the first time we tried it, Nightcrawler. It hasn't improved with age." And Nightcrawler says, "My apology, Empress. I'm not myself these days. But then, who among us is?" So out they go in to get the system, and Lalander says, "The repair systems have failed. We'll have to key each ignition function manually. I'll divert more air to the hangar. That should buy us the time we need. And Nightcrawler's like, why bother? We're only prolonging the inevitable. We are doomed, Lilandra. Perhaps, my friend, but Wolverine could be wrong. So, if you remember, the Wolverine finally told them they all have brood on them. So, and Cyclops says, we have to plug that breach. Wolverine, cut loose a chunk of the deck. So, Wolverine uses his claws to do it, but um, he loses control, and Colossus tells him, brace yourself, comrade, this will hurt. And he says, same goes for you, buddy. So, of course, it tells him, he reminds everybody about his adamantium skeleton. There was a great bit during the Jim Shooter era where every comic book was could be somebody's first, and Jim Shooter wanted as much exposition in each issue. So, and I think they delivered, and I actually do like that idea. How many times do you pick up a comic book just randomly and you're like, I don't know what's going on, so then you don't pick it up because you can't find the other stuff. So um you can see here Wolverine go oof, and Colossus says, I'm sorry, my friend, I warned you. Thanks a heap, says Wolverine. All right, and now Cyclops uses his optic blast here to get the rest out and tells Colossus to get out of the way, which he does. And boom, they plug the hole here. And so out they go, Colossus holding Wolverine. And Wolverine is like, that was too flaming close for cripes, we're falling. So they crash, but Colossus kind of braced the fall. So Kitty, or Wolverine tells Kitty Pryde, because she screamed for Colossus, he's fine, Kitty, I'm fine, everything's hunky-dory. That is, if you just ignore the fact the X-Men are as good as dead. So now we're back on Earth, and look at this friggin' Olympic-sized trampoline for a regular pool here. We have Stevie Hunter, Moira McTaggart, and here we have Colossus's sister, Ilyana Rasputin here. So, Stevie asks, any word? And Moira says none. Look at that hairdo. I feel a bit ghoulish enjoying myself knowing the X-Men could be dead or worse. And Moira says, so do I, but it's been weeks since they were kidnapped, and harsh as it sounds, life must go on. I'm glad you were company, Stevie. This place was turning into a mausoleum and been fair to drive me and the child daft. And Stevie asked about the professor. Ugh, the eyes. And Moira answers, not well. Oklas, you should have seen him when we first met. What a man. I fear he's never really recovered from the loss of his legs. So he'd give his mutant soul, his very soul, to be with the X-Men right now, to lead them. He was born to be a hero, but instead he must stay behind while others battle in his stead. He chafes at the restriction. And Stevie says, I feel something of the same since the law. Sorry, I'm gonna restart. I feel something of the same sense of loss whenever I go to the ballet. At the same time, a desperate willingness to pay any price to return to what I was. It's not an easy thing to cope with. So, and in Charlie's case, things are made worse by his belief that he's failed the X-Men as he did Jean Grey, and that they suffer the same fate. And McTaggart says, keep an eye on Ileana, will you, while I'm inside talking to Charles. Sure. And then Stevie, and you can see like a wind has arrived here. Oh no, it did look. It was a spasm here. Steve says, I'm okay, just a spasm. It'll pass. I was in an accident years ago, shattered my knee. Docs fixed it, virtually good as new. I can walk, I can even dance a little in class. The only thing I can't do is perform. No great loss, I suppose. No worse than losing your soul. Your soul. So, it looks like she's got her own demons, and you can see Moira walking in, and you can just see Professor Xavier very, very sad here. Moira calls out for him here. And Moira goes to Xavier and says, I have a letter from Reed Richards of the Fantastic Four concerning a young Vietnamese girl, Xian Khoi Man, codenamed Karma. She's evidently a mutant. Her control over her abilities is self taught. Dr. Richards believes there is a definite possibility of things getting out of hand. He'd appreciate your help. Or, sorry, your. And Xavier's like, no. And she's like, as you wish. And you can see her laying a letter. And he says, no argument, Mora. I'm surprised. And she says, we fought enough these past weeks, Charles. I'm done with screaming and breaking my heart trying to budge an immovable object. It's your life. You may live it as you please. Fortunately for the girl, there are other options. And Xavier's like, you? Perhaps. We've been associates in mutant research since before you founded the X-Men. I dare say I could do a fair job. But I was thinking more along the lines of Magneto. If we can find him, or Emma Frost, Massachusetts Academy. And Xavier's like, are you insane, woman? Magneto is the X-Men's greatest foe, and Miss Frost's cohorts in the Hellfire Club are almost as bad. You turned that child over to villains? Evil mutants, he says. Aye, because with them she'll have the best possible opportunity to learn how to cope with her abilities. It looks like this part had to be rewritten. So you can see it's done a lot smaller to make it fit here. She won't be condemned before she's bloody begun. Or is that the only choice? Is that the only choice? Says Xavier. Them or me? Mora, you aren't being fair. I cannot bring another child into this place only to see her destroyed. The X-Men are my family. I love them as I would my children. You've no conception of how much it hurts to lose them. And she's like, oh no. And then, of course, Xavier's like, forgive me, Mora. I didn't think. So, of course, we're remembering Proteus here, which we have covered. Again, check out the playlist. Um, and so, about Proteus, Charles, my son, a rogue mutant as wicked as they come. He murdered half dozen people, and in the end, the X-Men and I had no alternative but to kill him. If I'd swallowed my pride and my shame and turned to you for help, things might have turned out differently. Don't sentence Karma to a similar fate. One last thing, Charles. Proteus was my boy. He could have been ours. So she leaves, and Xavier is going to read that letter. And then it says here, and then the telephone. So it looks like we are going to, he's going to make some decisions here. So we're now at the Shi'ar shuttle here. And so here is Storm. If you remember, she left last issue. And she goes, what am I to do? A life grow within me, an egg implanted by the mother queen of the brood. So we're going to get an exposition here of stuff we've already covered, but of course this is for the readers and so forth. So oh, look at her. So of course she doesn't want to kill, and the brood, but it's either her or him, her or the egg. So what is she going to do here? So again, she's having a struggle because of her beliefs here, and she begs the goddess, help me. So good stuff here. showing how much it hurts. This is the reason why the X-Men were at this time the most um you know, the most popular title out there here. So she goes, "Oh, my hand." And she sees the Brood and sees her face as the Brood, and look at this. Oh, and suddenly here she is about to be transformed. Again, I'm not going to make a commentary on the Brood. I've already made plenty. So, um and she says, "The light, so brilliant, so blinding, what could it be?" And she's like, "Stars filling the sky, nothing but stars. I am myself again." So she says, "This must be the galactic core, millions of suns crammed into a relatively tiny volume of space, living stars, living worlds, and from each I draw both spiritual and material sustenance. The sudden influx of power caught the embryo off guard and enabled me to reverse the transformation, but I doubt it will be so fortunate a second time. The embryo's influence grows with each passing second. Even here, I cannot withstand it for much longer. If I am to act, I must do so now." So, here we go. I face not two paths, but three. Out of fear, I denied the one I knew in my heart that I would take. I could not face the X-Men, tainted as I was by the monster within me, so I fled. I wish I could see them now and tell them how much I love them, to bid them farewell. So, and it says here, with a last lingering look at the celestial glory about her, Storm summons the power of the entire core, and for the briefest of moments, a new star shines in firmament. Um, the process is surprisingly simple. No more actually uh, than she does when she draws energy from the earth to manipulate the weather. But in this case, things are magnified to an unimaginable degree. As Storm hopes the embryo does not survive the ordeal, neither does she, and Storm floats in outer space, and we fade to black. So, whoa. When you're reading this, you're like, what the heck is Claremont about to kill Storm? So, Cyclops tells Lilandra here that they're ready to roll. And then Cyclops says, "Where do we go?" And then Wolverine says, "How about back the way we came to finish what we started?" And Cyclops says, "To the Sleeves world to take on the Brood, 6 people in an armed yacht versus an entire race. You're talking suicide, Logan." And Wolverine's like, "What do we got to lose? The X-Men are living in borrowed time anyway. The Mother Queen implanted an egg on each of us. Because of my mutant's healing power and my body's ability to heal any wound or illness, the one I got was zapped. But yours, healthy, growing sooner or later, they'll mature. Do y'all want to sit around and wait for that to happen, or pay the Brood back for what they've done?" And of course, Lilander's like, "I am Majestrix Shiar, Empress of the warrior race. I will show the Brood the identical mercy they have granted us. From this moment on, wherever I find them, be they highborn or low, adult or child, their lives are mine." So, and Wolverine is like, "Sounds good to me, darling." And finally, Cyclops relents and says, "And to me, God help us all." So Wolverine goes, "It took a lot for Scotty to admit those kind of feelings. They go against everything he believes in, everything Xavier taught him. It's a hard thing to toss away your ideals. Me, I can never afford them. What's this? The elf praying?" And so he's speaking in Latin. He is a Catholic. So, "What's doing, bub?" asks Wolverine. And you can see him wearing a cross here. "What's it look like?" asks Nightcrawler says. in Congress, I guess I never figured you for the religious type. Um, and Nightcrawler says, "Why? Don't I look the part? I admit, I'm rarely seen in church, but I draw comfort from my beliefs and from prayer. Such a comfort is dearly needed now by all of us. You should try it, Logan. Who knows? You might like it. I did it. I did in the army. A mistake. I believe in nothing. Never have, never will. What what matters is what I can see, hear, smell, taste, touch. Tangible things, physical things, reality. The rest is imagination. And you have no use for that? Nope. I am sorry, my friend. Real quick, I love how Claremont, um, with Kitty being Jewish, Nightcrawler being a religious, Colossus, Storm, you just everybody's. It, it's so freaking good. There is just these are real people. This is what people loved about the X Men. Is just the real people with real problems with Chris Claremont, who is one of the greatest writers. It is a shame that in nowadays people all go, Brian Bendis or who would be a popular writer now, Scott Snyder over on DC. Um, all these current writers, and nobody ever brings up Chris Claremont as one of the greatest writers of all time, and what he did on the X-Men, it is amazing here. So you can see here that despite their philosophical differences, that both Wolverine and Nightcrawler are just really, really good friends here. And Nightcrawler says, I never realized how utterly inescapably alone you must be, with nothing to hold on to but yourself, more alone than I, despite my outer appearance, could ever be. And Wolverine says, I ain't alone, bub. I got you. Come on, let's see if they got any brew on this bucket. Of course, he refers to beer. And so now we've got Kitty Pryde asleep here. And of course, she's dreaming of her own funeral. Um, so, although she's here, but she's also in there. So, and again, this is what I meant with her being Jewish. Just Claremont giving everybody different belief system. And now her turning into the Brood. So, Kitty awakens and Colossus is there. And he says, I am here. I will protect you. Shh, there's a girl. Of course, she is just so scared. She's like, but Peter. She says she had a bad dream and asked, Colossus asked if she would like to talk about it. She's like, no. And Colossus says, it's okay to be afraid. And she says, I'm not afraid. Um, and then, of course, he says, of course you aren't. My error. And she's like, Peter, I don't want to die. And then, of course, he's like, who does? So, um, and he smiles. He's like, this isn't funny. This isn't a joke. It's either laugh or cry, and that is so true. Of course, she's like, Peter, don't you understand? Are you too stupid or too scared to accept the truth? We're going to die. And he's like, all right. Real quick, very Frank Millerish. Look at these manga eyes. Just how awesome. It is so cool. I was actually disappointed when they replaced John Romita Jr. With or Paul Smith with John Romita Jr. Because I thought Paul Smith was a much better um, artist, penciler, however, but John Romita Jr. toward the end really did find his way, and so I really do like Paul Smith. I sometimes imagine what would have happened if he would have had the entire time. Like if he would have had his time plus John Romita Jr. time on X-Men, what kind of a penciler would he have been? And so I'm gonna skip this part. They're basically gonna have philosophical discussions about life. And Kitty, of course, talks about the sleazoid, as Wolverine referred to the Brood, and she's just, you know, very. Chris Claremont really makes a good depiction here of a kid who is just terrified of dying, and here the two of them hold, and she goes, "Gee, I wish I was older." And Peter's like, "So do I." So, and of course they kiss. Yes, she's 14. Yes, he's 18-ish, maybe 19. But this is what it is. It is what it is, people. So we're just gonna keep moving on. So, and so they hug. Um, and suddenly, look, and by the White Wolf as he turns into Colossus. So that's his phrase here, and it's Storm here, or and they're like, "Kitten, little brother, how good to see you. Your teeth, your eyes, the mark of the vampire. That's not right. Are you real? Are you a ghost?" And suddenly she's gone. So, and so here, I'm sorry, Wolverine and Nightcrawler are having a talk, but of course, Storm comes through, and they both saw it, and so they're like, "Oh, we must be drunk," and they're like, nope." And so they're seeing Storm now in different stages here, and so they it's not an illusion, or they maybe think it's an illusion here. So um Nightcrawler teleports to tell everyone here. Everybody says they saw her too, and of course here comes the Storm again here. So, and Wolverine's like, "Oh no, no, relax, baby. You're among friends. No need to be scared." And they're like, "Wolverine, it's a holographic projection. It isn't real." And he's like, "Wrong, bub. I thought so too, but my senses tell me it's Storm. I'm following their lead." So Cripes, her features are changing, getting older, and so um, they are something's going on here in this nebula. And again, this is Lynn Varley as the colorist here, and Lilandra says, "Visual contract. Cyclops is one of the Brood's living starships. We're being swallowed whole." So you can see the ship's about to go inside. And Cyclops is like, "Full power to the engines. The rest of you activate the ship's combat systems. Let's punch our way out of here. Prano." And Lilandra says, "Too late. The creature broadcasts a power field that dampens the matter-antimatter core. The drive is inert. Ship's weaponry has been rendered inoperative as well." And now Storm has appeared. "That was for my protection as much as yours, Lilandra. I could not risk your injuring the Akanti before I had an opportunity to explain. Ah, practice makes perfect. At last, I meant to look like this from the start. There's no cause for alarm," says Storm. "Ododo, is that you?" And they go to hug her. And she's like, "Pleased to see me, kitten. Yes, oh yes." And Cyclops says, "I'd like an explanation, Ododo. What happened to you?" "A great deal, not all of it pleasant, but I am not the Storm you knew." "How can you be so sure this star beast Akanti, you called it, won't harm us?" And Kitty's like, "Wow. I know her at least as well as I know myself, because she is myself. The Akanti and I are one. And so in 30 days, live free or die." Now, we are going to actually, because I do everything in reading order, we are going to next do the New Mutants, the Marvel graphic novel. We're actually going to do New Mutants, the graphic novel, and then New Mutants 1 before we do the next X Men. So, This is where we're gonna call it a day. Uncanny X-Men 165 by Chris Claremont, Paul Smith, and Bob Wyachek, with Lynn Varley doing the colors for this issue. Like and subscribe. I do thank you for listening. Goodbye.